Hello everybody, Spanglish Fran here, and today I'm going to be answering a question that absolutely nobody had. Which guild locket is the best guild locket? The guild lockets are a cycle of 10 cards, each one representing the guild of Ravnica that they correspond to. They each produce 1 mana of either color of the guild they represent. For example, the Gruul locket produces red and green mana. In addition, you can sacrifice this mana rock to draw 2 cards. Now you might be asking yourself, if they all do exactly the same thing, doesn't that mean that none of them are better than the other? And to that, I have to say, you are right. Or at least it would be true if all 10 guilds use the same strategies to win. Those that benefit from the mana production or the card advantage the most could be considered better lockets. So what is our criteria for deciding which locket is the best locket? Well, we just mentioned 2 of them, mana production and card advantage. By mana production, I mean being able to cast mana-intensive spells earlier than you would otherwise be able to. If your strategy is to cast big bad boys and swing in with those big bad boys, then you are going to benefit more from having that additional mana. On the other hand, if your strategy is about putting a lot of small creatures and turning them sideways, then this extra mana is not really going to benefit you. And one more thing, some guilds have really good turn 3 cards. So if you have a turn 3 card that is better than the locket, then you'd rather play that instead of playing a rock. But this isn't just any rock. This rock draws you cards. So the second criteria is card advantage. If your guild has a hard time drawing cards, you might want to put these cards in just to get those extra 2 cards. And the last criteria is aesthetics. Now, I'm not going to be going over the aesthetics or the beauty of the insignias themselves. Obviously, which guild and their insignia you like the most is very personal, and your emotional connection to your guild is something that nobody should ever judge. But I digress. Actually, no, I don't digress. Zorius definitely has the best guild insignia. It's definitely the coolest. But don't feel too bad about not having this insignia, because the Azorius locket is the worst locket of the bunch. It doesn't need the mana, and while white is really bad at drawing cards, blue is the best. The only saving grace of the Azorius locket is that it is flavorfully on point. Until you notice that if you held up the locket right side up, the insignia wouldn't be upright. The Azorius would not stand for this lopsided thing! What was I supposed to say here? Anyways, the next worst is the Dimir locket. Dimir doesn't really care about ramping, and black and blue have the best card draw spells, so the card advantage is also kind of useless, so functionally this locket is just useless. The locket itself is kind of neat, except it's not a locket. It doesn't have any hinges to open and close the insignia, unless it's some kind of rotating, camera shutter thing. Man, I don't know. It also doesn't have a necklace bit so that you can put it around your neck. So I guess if you're part of the guild that is known about assassinations and spying, you don't want to show off that locket, but yeah, overall, neat. The next 3 lockets are going to be the Orzhov, Rakdos, and the Izzet, kind of in that order. Orzhov is pretty much a flavor win. It has gold all around it just to show off its wealth. Though if you think about it, those gold pieces are kind of the currency of their world. So would you be wearing pennies and quarters around? You know I would, baby. This thing is actually much heavier than I expected. Quarters are heavy, damn. The Rakdos locket looks like it's painful to wear, which, makes sense. But functionally, it doesn't really jive with their balls-to-the-wall aggro strategy. However, if you are hellbent on making a spectacle, maybe drawing a few more cards and unleashing havoc on your opponent might be a good idea. It's a joke for people who... Those are Rakdos mechanics. Izzet is neat. It looks like a ticking time bomb locket, which is pretty cool. It has double the hinges to, just open and close from both sides. And it actually looks like a tool that the Izzet would use instead of just being, a bling thing. Now, admittedly, the Izzet locket isn't that valuable to the Izzet strategy, which is usually a spellslinger strategy with a lot of cheap instants and sorceries, and their card draw is actually pretty darn good. However, they do have X value cards, which, having that extra mana might be valuable if you're going to be trying to cast those for really big numbers. Well, that's it with the bottom 5. Now for the top. Next up, Gruul. Get this off. The editor will cut this out, hopefully. Do I look good? No, I don't. Now, you might have noticed that the top 5 have one thing in common. They're all in the color green. Mostly. This is because green has the biggest bad boys that mana can buy, and Gruul is no exception. There's only one problem, and that's with the flavor. Now, stay with me, but the Gruul locket is a skull. Pretty metal, right? The flavor text even reads, and I quote, "In life, it was a cunning survivor, fearless and quick." Yeah, pretty metal. But lockets are usually pretty small. Even if they're big, they're not going to be any bigger than your chest. So this skull belonged to like a rat, and I can't see the barbaric Gruul calling a rat cunning or a survivor. So only one other option exists. This is actually fake. It's handmade with small tools, daintily cut off. Definitely metal. Next up is the Simic and the Golgari. They also have green, so they have big bad boys to cast. They aren't higher up in the list because black and blue have good card draw, so they're just gonna be fighting over 4th and 3rd place. Now, the Simic does have a very mana-intensive ability, Adapt, but these are meant to be really activated like 2 turns apart from each other, so not really as necessary. Also, it doesn't help that the Simic locket is just probably the plainest looking, but simple isn't bad, it's just simple. And the Golgari is in the same boat as the Simic. However, it does get some bonus points for being the ugliest locket, which for the Golgari makes total sense. So, good job. Or crappy job, I guess. Here we are, Boros locket and the Celestia locket. Now, you'll notice that both of these are in white. And that's because white has the worst card advantage out of all the colors. However, aesthetically speaking, it has to go to Boros by a landslide. In fact, it might be the best looking locket or most flavorful out of the whole bunch. The craftsmanship on this locket is just beautiful. The red insignia on top of white marble, magnifico. Not only that, it's a flavor win too, because the Boros locket looks like a medal of honor, given only to those that have proven themselves to be the bravest among the Legion. The Celestian locket, on the other hand, while pretty, doesn't have the full insignia of the tree on its locket, which really doesn't speak to me Celestia, who are all about beauty in numbers and in nature. So, that is why I have to award Boros as having the best luck. That's why I'm giving the best locket to the Boros Give me a sec. I'll be right back. Oh, hi, Amara. Well, yeah, but I know you have big green creatures, but the Boros were small. Fair point. So the Celestial Conclave came over to remind me that they have big green creatures. Which is a fair point. Fair point. Boros, after all, is an aggressive strategy. They don't need the extra mana. And green is the second worst at drawing, so white-green technically is a lot worse card advantage than white-red, because red at least has some rummaging. So yeah, you know what? I changed my mind. Celestia Locket is the best locket out of the whole set. So there you have it. The best locket belongs to the Celestia Conclave. Now, if you enjoyed this video, it'd be awesome if you could just... A lot of visitors today.
Tajik, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm just finishing up that's a sharp sword you got there. What do you think of?